Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes. Other side of the screen is the one, the only Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. We are activating him off of the short-term IR. Lester, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, you guys who are watching on the YouTube kind of see that I'm in a different spot. If you guys listening on the podcast, you may hear my mic's a little different here. I had to move downstairs because of the surgery. So, yeah, I'm just feel really disheveled. I'm just not. This is not my norm, right? I hate change, and this has just been a rough few months for me here.
You know, it's like somebody coming off of like we've been saying here on the short-term injured list. You got a guy coming off full of rust. You know, things aren't clicking yet. You still got to get yourself back into game shape. So we're doing this. We're recording, 12:45 on Sunday. That's not our normal time, but the Bears played a Friday night game. Yeah. The preseason's over. We're going to have the roster stuff. This felt like the right time to try to get in here. I've been on vacation last week. I really didn't want to do this after my first day back at work on Monday. So I was kind of hoping we could kind of knock this out on Sunday. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Bears Chiefs. We're going to talk about the preseason as a whole. Some of the cuts that we think may be coming down, that talk might be outdated by the time you listen to it because we'll start seeing the cuts here come soon. But just overall impressions and things like that we want to get through. Anything off the top before we sort of work through categories?
Yeah, the Chiefs game was kind of fun for me because, again, going in, it's preseason, right? We're talking about practice. I never get too high, too low over practice games. And I expected the Chiefs to look good. I mean, they were playing their ones. That sure did. Perennial Super Bowl contender, Patrick Mahomes. It was preseason, and he's doing Patrick Mahomes things. Like, why is he running around making plays in preseason?
Failing out to the right and throwing a dart back across his body. I was like, okay, can you save that for the playoffs and not preseason?
Crazy. That's what he does. That's what the Chiefs do. It's a very good team. So, I think it's kind of nice that the Bears kind of got a little smacked around because now they're going to go into week one. Man, I guess, we're not as good as we think we are. And, those kind of chips on their shoulders, I think, are things that motivate Caleb and definitely motivate Ben Johnson. He looked pissed when they were winning 30-0 against Buffalo. So I think it's kind of nice that happened. The comeback win was kind of cool. Tyson Bagent was kind of cool seeing him do what he had to do there. And overall, the preseason, another undefeated preseason that makes it 2 in a row for the Chicago Bears.
I know that there's going to be some people that are going to be like, oh, you're twisting that. Like you're making that be like, you're taking the negative and you're trying to like say that it's actually a positive because the Bears just got beat up. Look, man, it's practice football. And I think that in some weird way, that coaching staff kind of loved that they got the wake up call against the Chiefs, because if they came out and they wiped the Chiefs, they're going to come in to the first. They might already. Yeah. I mean, because you think about it, the Bills are, the number 2, number 3 team in the AFC, and they whipped them. It was 38-0. I mean, I don't care if they didn't play their guys, like they still, pushed them around, right? So they're probably feeling pretty good. They come into this one and they see the ones of the team of the last decade, and you knew the Chiefs were going to come in prepared. They like to play their starters in this third preseason game. There's a little bit of this, hey, we went from 4 preseason games to 3 preseason games. Some of these teams just haven't been playing their starters in the last preseason game, but other teams are starting to treat the third preseason game like the third preseason game used to be treated. And just treat the fact that they don't have the 4th preseason game and just kind of drop off the remainder there. And I think the Chiefs were like, no, we want these reps. We want to make sure that we're good to go for week 1. And I think Ben Johnson's probably going to be that type of coach as well. He kept Caleb in for the first half and the starters in for the first half, made sure that they were able to complete a drive, which I think was kind of nice to end the preseason on. But yeah, overall, I mean, I think there's some really positive things to look at from both sides of the football. And again, I know, Mahomes looked like Mahomes and kind of pushed that first team defense around. But I think there's just a lot of good stuff to talk about, to look at. And we'll kind of do both, right? We'll talk about the game specifically and maybe the preseason as a whole and what we're looking forward to moving forward.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's get into it. We, of course, always start with the Trench Tribute. So the guys up front, what'd you see throughout the game of the preseason that you want to highlight?
I'm going to go with Luke Newman. Rookie, 6th-round draft pick. Look, this is the guy that's been starting during the preseason with Joe Tooney out. The Bears played their ones 2 weeks in a row. both weeks. Of course, we don't have to play the all-pro Joe Thuney. Let's have him on the bench. So who do they start? Ryan Bates, the veteran? No, it's Luke Newman getting the number 1 rep. So the fact that he came from a 6th-round draft pick, where at the time when he was picked, a lot of people questioned the pick. What are they doing with this guy? He's a developmental project, which is fine. 6th-rounders, that's what you're supposed to get in a 6th round. The talk was he could play both guard spots and maybe even center, right? So that's pretty good value if he can become that. Well, he's already become that, it looks like, in year 1 as a rookie. He looks like he may be your first guard off the bench, possibly. He has been getting center reps during training camp as well. So I don't think they'll trust him at center as a rookie, because that's a really tough position to play, especially with a guy like Newman. He's never played it before. But here's a guy, Luke Newman, 6th-round draft pick, came out of really nowhere, just kind of established himself as the top reserve guard. So I think Luke Newman deserves some kudos for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to love the idea of, when these guys get drafted, you sort of say, well, here's best case scenario, right? And you kind of work through and you say, like, here's what we think is best case scenario. But, hey, keep in mind that the floor is also, prevalent with these later round draft picks. And, this might be a practice squad candidate. This might be into the roster guy, it kind of depends on how he shows out. And with that camp, you expect him to make the active 53-man roster. You expect him, like you said, first off the bench. That is a top end result with that draft slot. So definitely a good one to highlight there. What's interesting is I actually wanted to highlight Joe Thuney because I was actually listening to the Chiefs broadcast, watching this game, and they love him. Right. And why wouldn't they? He was part of that offensive line unit that he won 2 Super Bowls there. He won 2 Super Bowls in New England. And I know we know this, right? I know that we have talked about this. I just don't think that Bears fans in general really grasp that this guy's kind of an all-timer, right?
All pro. Yeah.
He has been awarded all pro multiple times. He has won 4 Super Bowls. He's been part of the last 2 dynasties. And so you're not just getting a really good football player, which you absolutely are. And you hope that he can hold on and maybe polish up what could be a potential Hall of Fame career, right? Like that's what Joe Thuney is, certainly hoping for. But he could become the first player in the history of the league to be an active roster member of 3 of Super Bowl teams from 3 different franchises. If you consider the Bears to have an open window right now to start competing for that, right? And I think that's the hope. I talk about the floor expectation and the ceiling expectation for a Joe Thuney move, right? The floor expectation is, hey, this guy is at the end of his career, but like we're hoping for some stable, good play, and maybe he can influence a Luke Newman and younger guys and kind of bring them along and provide that leadership, right? That's the floor play for going out and getting and paying a Joe Thuney. But the ceiling is that, like, he's showing this offensive line, this offense, this franchise, what contending teams do, what dynasty teams do, and leads the Bears to the promised land, right? Like that's the ceiling move for a Joe Thuney. And the way that those Chiefs guys were talking about him, and the Creed Humphrey and the Trey Smith, yelling across the field at him and all that kind of stuff, like there's clearly a lot of love there. But I wonder about Joe Thuney's legacy as he's entering this, probably this final leg of his NFL career, and what this could possibly mean for him cementing his legacy.
He's 32, healthy guards, they could play, 34, 35 at a pretty high level. So I think we're seeing the Bears here. They drafted a guy. Oh my God. And my dog is doing dog things right now.
It's still the preseason, guys.
It's preseason. Let me mute myself here.
So, as Lester takes care of the dog here, I think you're right. We've seen interior offensive linemen. I mean, offensive linemen in general are going to get beat up. They're going to get nicked up. But interior offensive linemen over the years, they can play at a high level throughout, because it becomes like this strength and leverage game, right? It's not like necessarily a high-end athleticism that you have to talk about with like tackles or defensive ends, where, if you get kind of beat up a little bit, you might lose some of that high-end athleticism. But if you're talking about an interior player, that is a lot about strength and leverage, and that can age fairly well if you're able to kind of keep yourself into good shape.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I apologize for the dogs. I'm, stuck downstairs with with the cast, so I can't really get my normal office. My daughter just took the dogs away, so I should be good now, hopefully. But yeah, with Tooney, man, he's on that Hall of Fame track, right? I mean, he can be that guy, and I still get excited when I listen to like national broadcasts or national ESPN or the news stories when they mention Bears All-Pro guard Joe Tooney. That just sounds cool because, it's been a long time the Bears have had a guy of that caliber. So it's pretty exciting the fact that he's there leading this O-line unit for the Bears.
Yeah, I think it's something to be really excited about. I think that he can really help bring that O-line unit together, and I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see the impact of a player like that. So let's move to our stat of the week, caught up in a numbers game. What do you got, man? What number stuck out to you from the preseason or from this game?
I got two numbers. My numbers are 12 and 4. Okay. So those are the tackle numbers for Bears rookie Ruben Hippolyte. He led the Bears in tackles on defense with 12 this preseason. And he also tied for the team lead in special teams tackles with 4, tied with Miles Boykin. So his speed pops, right, when you watch him on film. And look, he's not going to be your starting Sam. I know there was some buzz early on that he could be the guy. It looked like it's Noah Sewell's going to be that, which is fine. He's a third-year pro. Still a really young football player, Sewell is, so he's probably going to be your Sam. Or maybe the Bears scour the waiver wire, look for an upgrade there at the Sam, since he's not in the field very often to kind of bring a guy in. But a guy like Hippolyte, year one, you may not think it's the best value for a 4th-round pick. A lot of fans question that pick. But look, if he is a core special teamer here for the next 4 years, that's not bad. Our guy Josh Sunderbrush did a big deep dive into the draft, looking for getting value out of different spots in the draft, and just getting those 4th-round picks to play consistently. That's a win for the Bears. So they could have got him later, probably, possibly. You never know. I mean, the scout boards for teams are much different than the fans and the analysts board. So who knows where he would have went? They got their guy, and at least in preseason, he's showing up on film with the speed, which is why they drafted him in the first place.
Well, a 4-year core contributor of a 4 phase special teamer is a really nice floor result of a
yeah.
Right? Like that. I think that's a really good way to look at it. Can he come in and provide some snaps on defense? Can he grow into a role? Can he learn how to play linebacker like more, right? Like at a professional level, those things those are questions that may not need to be answered this year. But can he grow into that role next year or the year after? Is that, is Noah Sewell going to, maybe replace Noah Sewell as the starter next year or the year after, like kind of that, just general replacement theory. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like you need players like that. And that's hopefully what you're getting there. For me, my number 96.5%, that was the win probability that the Chiefs had at one point in this game in the second half, and the Bears overcame it. And I just, I thought, boy, where have we seen this on the opposite side in recent years? And again, I know it's preseason. I know it doesn't matter in the long run, but to me, it was very nice to see a situation where the Bears were like, dead in the water, and they were able to come back, complete the comeback and get the victory here. And I just wonder if that's a sign of, hopefully the Bears aren't going to be in a 96.5% deficit, win probability deficit here much in the future, but you just wonder if that happens now, is there going to be the ability to come back? And if the Bears get into these positions, with Ben Johnson and his ability, and his understanding of the game, I don't see him flubbing these. I don't see him flubbing the 96+% win probabilities when he gets that, because he does seem to understand how to work the clock. I feel like the 2-minute offense has been really good in the preseason overall. I think that's a real takeaway from me. And I think that's Ben Johnson understanding how to play calls and his scheme. So I wonder if maybe there's just a little glimmer of this is something we're going to see that's changed with the new era.
I'm glad you mentioned the late game situations, that kind of stuff, because earlier this week, the NFL announced that they're going to let sidelines now use AI technology for some of these late game situations. And when I saw it, I'm like, this just seems kind of weird, because look, AI is what it is. Obviously it's a thing that's happening here. But as someone who writes about sports, right, when I do my searches to kind of pop things up to kind of research things, the first thing it gives me is the AI thing, and it's always wrong.
Yeah,
I rarely bother looking at it, but sometimes something will catch my eye, and I'm like, come on, dude, this is just basic football knowledge. So it's like, I doubt anyone in the NFL, any coach will. I'm not using those damn AI. You know what I mean? I can't see that happening, but I just think that's a stupid precedent to set. Like, why are we even allowing computers to give coaches? It's a human game. Let the humans play the game.
Yep. I mean, I have many thoughts on.
I know you do
on AI. So, yeah, I think the one that I saw recently was someone was saying Anthony Munoz didn't give up a sack in his entire career, and people were like, "Whoa, that dude was dominant." And it's first of all, he was dominant. Was an amazing player, but they didn't have those stats back then. So the AI it says 0 because it doesn't exist. And so it says did not give up a sack. It's pulling from something that doesn't exist. And so then it makes this leap. And then people then quote that and use that. And now all of a sudden that becomes this like false, idea that's out there. So there's a whole thing that when dealing with talking about football, particularly talking about football history, and understanding stats and how they kind of change throughout the eras, that you do have to be kind of, careful of when writing things up. And, if you're going to take a shortcut, you realize that you might be punished for that. So just, a fair warning. As someone who has a giant piece that's about to publish that took me many, many, many hours of original data collection, putting together, I will tell you that there's not a lot of shortcuts that, you have to put in the work. So,
you can't just type @Grok and then have it give you all your answers in the world. You can't just do that.
No, it does not. So I think that bring that back to your point, like, I don't think that there's going to quite be a replacement for someone who really understands the game, who's put in the work and can call the plays and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how it's going to be used. There I think are people that can do all the things that you need to do, but you got to put in the work, right? Yeah. So if you want to build a model to help you pick out the best play call or whatever, well, somebody else can build a model that's going to challenge that too, right? So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. And then imagine the post-game press conference where the coach is like, well, the computer said that I should run this play at this time, like that. So that's why we ran it, right?
That feels like an Eberflus thing to do, right?
That's not going to hold up
on the computer.
That's not going to hold up. All right, let's hit the social media portion. Our sweet tweets. I'm gonna start. This is from our friend Ken Mitchell. He's at WCG Bears Den Dude. He said, "This is my 10th anniversary of being the Den Master at Windy City Gridiron, or at least the 10th anniversary of me making it Facebook official." So, congratulations to Ken. We love Ken. Ken is a great dude. Met him a couple times in real life. Very nice guy and does a great job with the Den. It is also my 10th anniversary because we started at the same time. Nice. And, Jack Silverstein's also his 10th anniversary because we all started around the same time. And I believe that this is the 10th anniversary of unofficial you taking the reins, your 10th season or close to it, because you took unofficially, and then I think officially about a year later, you took the reins. And so congratulations to you as well as we enter a decade into this era. But also just wanted to take the opportunity before we get started and all that. Like, you are an incredible leader. And appreciate working with you in writing over the years and all the support that you've done. And it's been a pleasure to be your podcast co-host as well.
I appreciate it. That's really nice to say. Yeah, I saw that from Ken. I didn't realize he was around that long. And yeah, I mean, it's a great place, a great community at Windy City Gridiron. And, we have obviously the fans. We've had people coming around for, longer than I've been even writing for the site, which is, a long time. And, they just keep coming back. I mean, that's kind of what makes it so cool is the comments, the fans. And yeah, we have knuckleheads too. Everyone has knuckleheads, but those are our knuckleheads. So it's okay that they're there. And as far as the staff goes, man, you guys do an incredible job. It's just makes it easy, man. I just kind of, everyone kind of knows what they're supposed to do. And, we all kind of have our place, and it's just a fun place and a fun community. I'm glad I'm part of it. I'm glad I got such a fantastic team around me.
Well, again, appreciate that. And, this is the Second City Gridiron podcast channel, of course, but we have a connection, of course, to Windy City, and we all have, some connection there. Everybody on the channel has done at least a little bit of work there too. So shout out to them and the good people that help us make that run. So what about you?
I don't think I've ever highlighted my own tweet before, but
I saw it. I was like, interesting.
But I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure where I can squeeze this in. I kind of looked through the Twitter and I looked through Blue Sky to find something that I could share. And I'm like, well, nothing really seems relevant as far as what's going on. So what the hell? So I tweeted out a string of some thoughts about whole cut down day. And the one I'm highlighting here is how often as a player you're afraid of getting claimed on cut down day actually get claimed by another team. Historically, it's got to be like 99% of the time they always make it back through waivers, and that 1% that is claimed ever take meaningful reps elsewhere. So someone told me in a thread, the Bears have had several players that they've lost through the years. So I'm like, okay. I did a little research. I went to the Bears website. You can check their transactions all the way back to 2016. So I went all the transactions on cut down day, right, through 2016. Not one player that the Bears cut going that far back has ever lost, and then they made a difference anywhere else. I know there's Kareth White at one point. I know.
Yeah, but he was signed off the practice squad to the Steelers.
Oh yeah, he was off the practice squad. Yeah,
so he wasn't a claim on cut down day.
There's never been a guy, at least through 16. I had someone else say, Tress Way. Tress Way was cut like prior to cut down day, and he was on a second stint in Chicago, and there was no fans. Maybe you, because you're a punter enthusiast. There was no fans clamoring, "Oh no, we're going to lose Tress Way. Get out of here." So 2016, not one player the Bears cut, they lost. Alex Bars, Ryan Nall, This year, Jade Walker, receiver, looks really good in camp. If they lose him, they lose him. What are you going to do? Put him on a roster and never play him? Because where are you going to fit him in? He's not going to play as a sixth receiver. I think he'd be a great story to have come up and stick around. But every team in the NFL has their Jade Walkers, right? The guys oh my God, we can't lose this guy. He's fantastic. I just saw a tweet the other day from a Texans fan. Oh my God, we're going to lose this guy, right? It's like every team has that guy. If we lose him, hey, as a football fan, root him on and on his new team and hope he does well. But there's just 53 spots. What are you going to do?
Well, and you've brought a guy through the off season schedule. They have the relationships that they're building with their teammates, with the coaches. Like, you've invested in that player, right? And so like you have to be really unhappy with a room to go out and claim somebody else. So like you have eyes for someone else that's going to get cut down. That player is someone that maybe chose to sign with that team over your team. You've scouted that player. Maybe another coach knows him, like they came from a hey, I had this guy, I love him, he'd be great in this room. If he gets cut, let's grab him, right? Like there's almost has to be a reason, because otherwise you're just fishing, right?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen very much, because you've signed these 90 guys for a reason, right? Like you are at least interested in them to some extent. And so the guys that you of course you want to keep everybody, but there's certainly players that like, okay, you can't keep, hey, keep your phone on, if we get some injuries, things change, we may be able to bring you in. But they certainly want to keep 65 guys. Like the practice squad's easy to fill. Yeah. It's full of guys that they like. And so this guy's a success story and is someone that they want to bring back. If they cut him, he might make the active roster, right?
Yeah, you never know.
It's not crazy that he could be the sixth wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think it's a good conversation to have. But it's also not crazy to think that he would fall through the cracks, because someone would, they'd have to claim him and put him on the 53. Yeah. So it's a tough bar to make a 53-man roster. So I think it's a good point. The Tress Way thing, wasn't he competing with Brad Maynard still? Wasn't that?
Tress Way, his first year in Chicago was Adam Podlish, right?
Oh, Podlish. Okay.
So he lost that gig and he was cut. And then he came back the next offseason, but the Bears had Megapunt.
They
Patrick O'Donnell. So at that point, they drafted a guy, O'Donnell, who was booming punts,
right.
So they're like, and then Tress Way was cut before the final cut down, because back then they did 3 cuts.
Essentially a camp leg.
Yeah, he was a camp like he was cut prior to the final cut down. So someone brought him up to me and like, I'm not even going to address some of this stuff. It just makes no sense.
Punter's its own thing, specialist's their own thing. So, yep, absolutely. Okay. Hey, quick break on the other side of this. We're going to talk quarterbacks and then the three Bears. Stick with us. All right, let's talk quarterbacks. So Caleb's corner, but also just QB corner because Caleb's not playing the whole game. Caleb Williams, let's start with him. 11 or 15, 113 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and took 1 sack in this game. Overall, I think that not just this game, but his action in the preseason, I mean, I think he looks pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Like what are we talking about here? Everything looks pretty good from Caleb so far.
Balls come out on time. He's going through his progressions. But JB, there was that 1 sack, right?
There was that 1 sack.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, look, he's not going to be fixed in a whole offseason. That's part of his thing. I didn't get a chance to dive into the all 22. It's the last preseason game. I just didn't have a chance to get into anything there. But did he miss a guy? I don't know. Maybe he did. It's a bad play. He took a sack. He talked about it. He addressed it. Ben Johnson talked about it. Ben Johnson made a joke about it. Oh, that's a good protection. Held the ball that long. So I don't know. It's preseason again, right? That's a mistake he made. He'll learn from it. He'll move on. And then, but overall, man, Caleb's had an up and down offseason, right? They went through the install period. He looked rough. When they finished the install, it's all of a sudden the offense stacks like 3 or 4 good practices in a row per the beat, per the national and the local beat that were there. So, I mean, it's year 1 of the offense. Go back and look at Ben Johnson's first year as the official play caller in Detroit. I know the year prior, I think it was 2019, he was kind of like co-play caller. His first year as play caller, the offense started a little slow, right? But, they picked up steam. They eventually got things figured out. And that's, I think, kind of what we're going to see here in Chicago. It's going to have a little bit of a slow burn. It won't be – they're not going to throw for 500 yards out of the gate. It's going to take some time to kind of get the offense where it needs to be. And it's fine. It's year 1, they'll figure things out. Hopefully the rest of the team kind of pick up the offense as they get things going.
I think last year you saw that he felt pretty comfortable throwing to Keenan Allen, probably too much, maybe fixated a little bit too much on him. And I think that overall, despite DJ Moore being a little bit odd last year and how he reacted to things, I think that Caleb certainly had a pretty good connection with him. The connection wasn't quite there with Rome last year. There was a lot of times where they weren't on the same page. It seems like this year that he's spent a little bit more time really working to Rome. And I don't know if that's like something that hey, we want to make sure that this is going to be on track, or if it's something that's more organic, like, hey, I love looking his way because he's going to make some big plays for us. But overall, that feels like that's trending in the right direction. Obviously, we're really excited to see Luther Burden get on the field here and contribute in that way. Colson Loveland looks like he could be a matchup nightmare out of the gate and be a nice target for Caleb. And you start to, Caleb has to develop a rapport with each individual guy, right? Because they all run routes at different speeds. They all have different ways of being able to tell if this guy's going to be open when I throw the ball based on how I can see the defense playing him and how he's running this route, right? So Caleb has to, every quarterback has to do this, but you have to develop that relationship and the timing with all of these guys individually. And you talk about, the offense didn't look very good today. And then you kind of step back and it's like, well, it was day 7 of the install. Install is, always a bit of a struggle for a brand new offense, all that kind of stuff. And then, it's in and they're stacking good practices. And, he looks pretty good at game act. Guys, let's let this whole thing turn. I know we want instant gratification in this and in everything in American life, but these things do take time and they do take practice and just seeing some positive developments with the connection between the receivers and the offense looking like, listen to Bobby Peters. We had Bobby on, a few months ago, and then Bill brought him back, on his show, and just this admiration that Bobby, who's an X's and O's whiz, he really understands this stuff, but his admiration for Ben Johnson and how he marries the run and the pass together, how his play action works, how things set up. He's talking about, Luther Burden crashing down, getting a block, and how that set up for all of this space for him to get the ball, just, a number of plays later, and how that sort of thing fits together. Hey, you buy into blocking here. That's going to buy you some yardage of open free space when you can get the ball on the next series or 2 series down the road, because now you've set that mentality and we're going to call this play off of that play. And so there's so many exciting things, and maybe it all doesn't line up into this perfect, picture quite yet, but there's so many exciting things that look like they're starting to come together that I'm really excited. I think out of the gate, it's going to be fun.
Yes.
It may not be perfect, but I think it's going to be fun out of the gate because there's so many dynamic pieces that are working together here that I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to work early.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback play overall, I mean, Tyson Bagent looked good. Case Keenum in his brief one appearance, looked pretty good. Austin Reed, who's your QB4, he had a couple nice moments. So you could tell the coaching has made a difference this year with these young guys. And, it's going to be fun to kind of see how the whole offense kind of grows. But like you said, with Bobby Peters, the phrase, he wrote the book on so-and-so. He literally wrote the book. I mean, he studied several NFL offenses. He literally wrote the playbook. He kind of took their plays down, kind of broke them out. Yeah, you got it right there. So he literally wrote the book on several offensive coordinators, including Ben Johnson. So he's a great wealth of knowledge, and that was awesome hearing him on Bill's last podcast. If you haven't heard it yet, make sure you kind of scroll back through the feed, audio and video. We're on both, whatever one you prefer, and make sure you check that out because this stuff is really exciting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he used the phrase "cutting edge," which I don't know the last time. I mean, it's got to be Clark Shaughnessy in the 1940s with T formation, man in motion, for the last time the Bears offense was called cutting edge. So I think that's what we're talking about here, though, is that they did go out and get the guy here. I think the rising tide lifts all boats here, right? Because like you said, all quarterbacks had looked pretty good. Let's just run through Tyson Bagent's night too. Great night from him. Overall, 20 of 28, 212 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 sack. You combine those 2 numbers. So the quarterbacks in this game went 31 of 43, 325 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks. I mean, you take that every day, right? Now, obviously, negative game script, and they're trying to come back and win here. But you're running these passing concepts that work, right? There was a number of times where guys were open because the scheme brought them open. And did that ever happen last year?
That's the cool thing watching the Bears offense is there are open receivers once in a while. There's been a couple times where you're like, why are there guys in the same spot? Like we saw that plaguing the Bears offense for years and years and years. Now we're seeing it. We're like, yeah, well, it's preseason. There was a mistake made because Ben Johnson's never going to put 2 guys in the same spot. So if it's happening now, we know that's a mistake. When it happened before, Waldron's a dumbass. That must have been what happened because he's an idiot. But now we're pretty confident in saying there's no way Ben Johnson's offense does that. Yeah, the quarterbacks looked good. Tyson Bagent, kudos on that deal he got. Fantastic deal. I looked it up. He's the 40th highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now. So nice paper for him. Establishes himself in Chicago for a couple of years. He'll work with Ben Johnson. He'll work in this coaching staff. He'll be coached up. And now he's in line for another payday. Maybe a trade happens down the road. Maybe he gets signed off with a big, I want to date myself, a big Jake Del Home type deal as a backup going to a number 1 somewhere. So he's opening up his career to a lot of good places by staying here in Chicago for the next few years.
Yeah, why not be part of the Ben Johnson offense? Yeah. Number 1. Number 2, I think let's talk about that. We've talked about starting quarterback in the NFL is a position. Backup quarterback in the NFL is a different position, right? And he's done a very good job of solidifying the backup quarterback role. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't be a starter. I know a lot of Bears fans really like him, say he could start on a lot of teams. I'm not someone who believes that, but I'm not saying he couldn't, continue to develop and get to a point where he could be one of those guys that gets a chance on a team that is looking to fill that stopgap role or looking for that opportunity. So I don't want to limit him, certainly, but like I think he's a great success story coming as an undrafted free agent rookie,
Awesome.
earning that backup quarterback position and getting an extension for backup quarterback money, right? Like that's a really strong, amazing career arc that he is at right now. And you hope that he continues to improve because that just makes the Bears a better team, right? Yeah. Like you have a capable guy behind Caleb Williams that can be there in a pinch, push Caleb, learn the game with him, all that kind of stuff. Like I think all of that's great, but maybe, there's also a reason why he signed this deal for backup quarterback money, right? Like he and his agent see that there's a lot of advantage of sticking here and sticking in that backup role that he's been able to fill well. So, all right, enough quarterback talk. Let's go 3 Bears: hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. What do you got for the hot bowl?
Mine's more of a overall offseason kind of thing. Hot bowl. Where the hell did Theo Benedict come from, right? This guy went from UDFA from the CFL. Obviously, he was a fan favorite because of the whole American Eagle or Canadian Eagle thing he had in Hard Knocks. Got hurt. We heard nothing about him. Last year he spent all year in the preseason or on the practice squad. Comes in this year. Again, kind of an afterthought, just kind of a guy. Then all of a sudden he's in the mix to start at left tackle. He's not going to start at left tackle, but the fact that he worked himself to that position, where now he looks like a roster lock. Again, an undrafted free agent, looking like a roster lock in year 2. That's some good signing and developing of talent right there.
I mean, what a shocker, right? Like, I mean, the Hard Knocks thing aside, which was very funny, yeah, and came back around in the first preseason game. But at first, it was like, I mean, wait, what? Why is this a clerical error that you're talking about? It was because we were talking about 3 guys, right? There's going to be a 3-person competition. You've got the rookie Ozzie Trapillo, you've got Braxton Jones, of course, and you've got Karan Amagaji, who are going to compete here. And Karan, kind of a afterthought, right? It didn't, maybe dealing with a little injury early on, but didn't really push for anything significant. At some point they sort of peeled back Ozzie and started having him take reps at right tackle to, maybe where he feels maybe a little more comfortable, or, trying to train him to be the swing or whatever that was. And it kind of seemed like Benedict was the last competition for Braxton Jones, right? Like that, which was a shocker. And then to make the active roster. But I think that's, the Bears have, a good Canadian pipeline, I guess, if you will. I mean, it's not a lot of Canadian players, but of course you got Israel Donajay's, a Canada guy, right? So he played for many years, and Akeem Hicks went to college in Canada.
We have to mention, training camp superstar Matthew Betts, also from the CFL.
Sure,
we cannot lose this guy. And I don't know.
This is probably the Benedict's probably the Matthew Betts level of hype realized. Yes. Right, like that's probably the reality, because obviously Betts didn't do anything while he was in a Bears uniform. All right, well, for me, I think that's a great one. That's a great call. It might honestly probably that's the hot bowl of the offseason. So I think I have to say, do we know how to say his first name? Walker, the wide receiver.
Jade, right?
Jade, right? Okay, so. First of all, we got to get him a wide receiver. If he's going to stick, he's got to get a wide receiver number, because it's killing me to watch a running back number out there at wide receiver. He cut 3 or 4 targets, all in the last drive, and 37 yards. But he had a touchdown catch, and then he makes the special teams tackle on the kickoff coverage, right? And it's such a fantastic way to end the preseason. But I mean, the catch in the end zone for the touchdown was phenomenal. Yeah. The catch along the sidelines with the toe tap, phenomenal, right? So you've got 2 high ability plays there on one drive. He's made plays, in the preseason. I like Maurice Alexander quite a bit. I think he's a good football player that I think you hope sticks at least on the practice squad as well. And it sounds like those 2 guys were kind of vying for that last spot. But for him to come in and compete and potentially win a spot on the 53, I super surprising, because this room is already pretty stacked. right? Like this room, there was really only one spot that you could even make a case for. And here he is making a lot of fans, but I think a lot of people around the league be like, yeah, he's probably going to win that spot, or he's got a good chance at it.
He's definitely going to stick. He's definitely staying in the NFL, whether he gets claimed, whether he makes the Bears roster, or whether he comes back into Chicago's Bears practice squad. He's definitely going to have a chance to stick around in somewhere in 2025, and good for him. I mean, when he was signed, there was no fanfare. I mean, he wasn't the guy. You know, fans always kind of look, okay, who's going to be the guy that fans fall in love with? And you know, we never really heard Walker's name. You know, even in training camp. I mean, there were a couple moments, but you know, he wasn't even the guy that we heard much buzz about in camp. So here he is, you know, making a name for himself in the final preseason game. Like you said, he the nice catches, good athleticism, good concentration on both catches, makes the tackle on special teams, showing us some value there. So he's definitely a guy that's going to stick around and somewhere, somehow. So good for him.
Well, we'll have to go back and check our notes with Jacob Infante's appearance, where he went through the undrafted free agents to see what he said about Walker, right? So maybe we can pull that. If it's, you know, if he predicted this to be someone he was excited about, we'll have to pull that and share it. If he says he's not excited about it, we'll pretend like we didn't do it. All right. Well, let's flip it around. Cold bowl porridge. Anybody kind of stick out as being a little bit of a disappointment?
So he played a bit this last preseason game. And Deo Adengbo, right?
Okay.
Big free agent signing, defensive end, playing opposite Montez Sweat. Didn't have a great career in Indianapolis. He was obviously paid that money as an upside guy because, you know, they liked his body type. They figured, okay, he's a good edge setter. He hasn't really done much, right? In camp, there's been really little buzz about him. You know, not much happening there. Preseason, again, not much there. Again, it's preseason, it's practice. You know, you're not expecting much, you know, but from the beat reporters and the national local guys that were right there at camp, you know, covering this team, there wasn't much buzz about him. So Bears are counting on him to make a difference. I mean, he got paid pretty big money to kind of be that edge that can kind of get after the quarterback opposite Sweat, kind of take some pressure off Sweat. And so far, again, it's practice, it's preseason. You know, there's just not much there. So hopefully when the season comes on, he can kind of turn things on. Maybe Dennis Allen will unlock him more. Maybe Dennis Allen's his use of you know, mixing his guys around up front, scheming guys on one-on-one, scheming guys loose to kind of rush the passer. Maybe he'll benefit him. But right now, I got to go cold bowl with Deo.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seemed like a bit of a surprise move at the time. Felt like it was a lot of money for a guy that, you know, maybe not heard a lot about, and, you know, definitely shades of other players at that position that the Bears have signed over the years for decent money that don't really do much. So you're hoping that he can kind of break that. That's not his fault, but you know, hope that he can kind of actually show out when the games start. I think that's a good one to highlight. I thought for this game, the only thing that, you know, stuck out to me was, you know, the kicking unit. You had the blocked PAT. That's on tape now. You know, I don't know if that's your starting special teams, you know, field goal unit, but that's on tape. That guy got in pretty clean. So that's something that they're going to need to clean up. And then Cairo had the doink, right? So, you know, just not a perfect game from the kicking squad. I think overall, the kick off and kick return game, however way you want to look at it, both sides of that, I think, are very interesting to look at and think about. The Bears haven't shown really anything in the return game yet. Hopefully somebody can emerge, and, you know, Duvernay or whoever that is to really kind of take the reins and make a difference. But teams are starting to figure it out. They did not have it figured out last year. And I don't know if that 5-yard is making a big difference. You know, the you know, touchback's going to be 5 yards even further than it was last year. But teams are going to start to try to, like, play with this. And I expected this last year, where the kickers were trying to basically hit it on the inside the 5 and make the guy field it and return it. And I think you're going to start to see that a lot more this year. They're going to actually try to land it in the zone. They don't want the touchbacks. They were just booting it in the end zone last year. And so is Cairo Santos going to, and this kick coverage team, going to figure that out? Is that going to be something that they can do? Is the kick return team going to figure out how to, you know, take advantage of this dynamic return thing? You know, Tyler Scott letting that bounce, touching it, you know, then grabbing it in the end zone and running it out at the Bills game. this is what's going to happen. The kickoff's going to be different, right? So everybody's going to have to adjust the new rules. There's more creativity that you can have in the return game, but also like in the coverage game, right? Like you can make this a piece of your defense to have better starting positions and not just boom it out the back and let them start at the 35. There's a big difference between start in terms of expected points per drive when you're starting at the 20 than when you're starting at the 35. And so, are the Bears going to figure this out? And so far in the preseason and the opportunities that I've seen, it doesn't look like it. But again, it doesn't mean anything until the games actually start. So for me, I'm a little worried about everything that has to do with kicking right now.
We always find a way to shoehorn some special teams talk.
Yeah, special teams talk.
Right on, Brand. No, I think that's a good point. It's the whole kickoff thing being changed last year, there's still teams trying to figure things out. I mean, they did a lot of film work on the XFL. That's where the rule started. A while back, I saw some guy, I forget where he was now, but he did some big deep dive into some of the strategies behind what you do, how you pull guys, so to speak, on your kickoff, return unit. There's just different things you can do, schematically, which I think is kind of fun to kind of watch how that whole thing will evolve through the years.
Yeah, it almost need like a cut up of just returns and coverages and stuff to kind of understand it. Because it's one play and then you don't see it until somebody scores, right? Yeah. And so it's hard to and then they don't show you a good angle, right? So you can't see everything happening. They just kind of show you the guy with the ball and then these guys flying into the screen, right? They really need to show you like how this thing's developing. When you're up, again, I'm a guy that's always bought in zone tickets because that's what I can afford, right? But this is a preseason game, so I went up on the 50 and I was watching. I was like, man, it's just you can really see this in real time. It's very interesting to see it kind of unfold. It's probably the only one paying attention to the kickoffs, but but it was very interesting to see. Okay, so the Just Right Bowl. Who's the guy that's just sort of like, yep, that's what I expect?
I'm going to circle back to Ben Johnson. I mean, so far the Ben Johnson era has been what I expected it. His demeanor on the sideline, and it's interesting to kind of watch him. How Bears are up big, Bears are down big. He sees the same guy. He demands, perfection. Basically, that's kind of what we've heard talked about, and a lot of talk about culture. Obviously, was brought up during the off season, and so far so good. I mean, Ben Johnson is the guy we all wanted him to be. Did you catch that Kay Adams interview with him where he kind of talked about his preseason philosophy and there was one of his former Lions players made a joke, oh, that's the same thing we did in Detroit. And Ben Johnson's like, well, yeah, because it's the same preseason game plan I've used for 4 years. He just it's the same thing he does, which just kind of shows you how preseason they don't scheme, they don't scout, they don't game plan. It's just roll it out and let's play ball, right? That's all they do. So, it's going to look different week one, obviously from what we've seen so far in preseason, but it's exciting, man. I mean, if there's still some fans and some people in media trying to be negative on this whole process, it's like, what are we doing here, dude? If you can't be happy where your team is right now, you're just trying way too hard to be a dick. Like, seriously, that's what's happening here. Enjoy where this team is right now. I say it all the time. If they suck, we can be pissed off in January, right? But right now, man, why are you not happy for where this team is?
I'm always surprised at look, there's money to be made by being the eternal optimist and just covering everything as like everything's great. And there are some fans that love that. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong if you're one of those fans that likes to just get, puppy dogs and ice cream kind of content, right? I'm not judging. You do you. Life is short. Yeah. There's another group of people that it's all pessimism. It's not gonna work. Every pick's a bust. Every signing is an overpay. Everything's negative, right? And it feeds a different piece of the fandom. And there's a lot of fans that like to gravitate towards that, and they retweet that, they share that, they that feeds them in a very negative way. If that's how you want to live, I don't know. Like I don't think that's a very good place to be, but it's America. You do what you want. We've always tried to here's what we think the best case scenario is. Here's how this can work, right? Like here are these things going through. But at the end of the day, we're both fans of this team. We want this team to succeed. We want them to win. We want to watch good football because we all enjoy that when that happens. So for us, it's always been, we try to be honest and real and kind of lay it all out. A couple years ago, we said this team's trying to be bad. Like based on these moves and stripping down this roster, they're trying to be bad, and they were bad. We still had fun, right? We still had some fun covering the team, but now, like, if you're not that was all of that work back then, all these losses and all this BS, and George McCaskey not firing Matt Eberflus last year when he should have, right? Like all these things that happened that we had to endure collectively as fan base was to get us here, was to get us to a creative, innovative, cutting edge play caller who's brought in a lot of energy in his coaching staff, experienced defensive coordinator. There's a lot of talent on this roster. There's a lot of interesting things that we can discuss over this year based on, where this goes. We don't need to know the result. We can't know the result. We can't, predict the end result, but we think that this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we're all going to like this Ben Johnson guy pretty quick. If you're not already there, like, you're going to like him. You just listen to his press conferences, see how he acts. Like this guy was made to coach the Chicago Bears. First time that you can say that in quite a while.
Yeah.
So great call. I actually I had one, but I don't even want to share it because that's the right call. You may be in preseason mode, knocking off the rust, but you're knocking it out of the park here in the last few segments here. So let's close here. Anything you'd want to cover before we maybe look at the comments, because even though it's Sunday, there's like 50 comments. So we'll hop over there. If you ever want to join us during the regular season, we do this day after the game on 6:00 Central Time. That's where you can find us over at Windy Second City Gridiron. I'm on preseason mode. Second City Gridiron. You can also find the stream on Windy City Gridiron as well. And anything final?
No, it's just to be like we got 2 weeks now before obviously the Bears play the Vikings. So, we'll get some actual injury news. The 53 roster will be set for Tuesday at 3 Central Time. So, the Bears had one cut today. By the time you listen to this, they probably have a whole slew of cuts made. So, again, it's a fun time to be a Bears fan. I see no reason not to be excited for the season. And if it doesn't go the way we want, like I said, I'll be mad then. But right now, man, this is exciting. Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen. Let's go.
It's all deadly. All right, Lester, glad to have you back. Glad to have all you back, and we will get into this in a couple weeks. Enjoy the rest of your summer, everybody, and we'll see you then. Bear down. All right, real quick, what do we got? We got to enjoy this beautiful Midwestern day that we've been given here.
A little bit of the Detroit versus everybody. Our guy Don is back. Welcome, Don. Thanks for joining us here from the Lion.
Well, all I see from Don is he says Detroit sucks.
Oh, man.
Don Burr says Detroit sucks.
Wow.
I mean, Don, honestly, I thought Detroit was fine. I thought it was a nice city, very welcoming people. But if you hate your own city, that's just unfortunate. Detroit sucks from Don Burr. That's tough. Tough look, man.
That's too bad. We got some Tyson Bagent talk obviously going on in the chat. And look, this should be a time we celebrate a guy like Tyson Bagent, undrafted free agent, kind of comes out of nowhere, makes the team as a rookie, builds himself up, and now got a nice payday. So, like, I don't want to get into the negativity around the whole Tyson versus Caleb thing because I think it's silly. But enjoy your team, guys. Stop trying to be a hater about this or that, or Justin Fields, bringing him into the conversation. Just enjoy where you are as a Bears fan. Stop being a jackass and worrying about stuff like that.
Such a weird look for me. Like, again, you've got a starting quarterback that we should all be really excited about. We've got a backup quarterback that has earned this place. Like, we should be excited about that. Great success story. They're playing two different positions. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to that. Chris, I didn't know what you meant by this. I thought about it, and I've talked to Lester beforehand, and I'm wondering if I was just kind of using my indoor voice, right? Like, kind of my more professional podcasting voice where I do the Clean Water podcast or, other things that I've done in the past where I'm just like by myself. It's just a little different when I'm talking to Lester, right? Like he brings the energy and, excited. But when you're not playing off somebody else, I don't know how to, maybe I need to drink that cup of coffee right before I record and just go. But appreciate the comment. Appreciate anybody that decided to listen to me talk for 25 minutes while I stared out the window of my hotel room in Chicago.
No, it was fun. It was fun. Excited. I'm on IR, so like I was supposed to be with you 2 weeks ago, and first I had I had just had surgery the week prior, and then for some reason everything just swelled up real bad on me, and I was just in a bad place, like physically and mentally. I just couldn't do it. So Taylor Dahl stepped in for me. And then last week, you know, you were kind of on the road. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. You're like, hey, I'm going to jump on and do a solo pod. So thanks for you for keeping the brand alive here these last couple of weeks during the preseason. But I'm back now. I'm not in my normal spots, but you know, I'm going to be here now every game the rest of the way through.
Dante asks if the Bears should roster Case Keenum. Would he? I don't know what the practice squad rules are anymore, but like Case Keenum.
So here it is. I got him. So I had the same question in one of the comments. So Keenum got paid guaranteed money, so he's paid either way, right?
He's paid. Yep.
So, but there is a portion if you do cut him, right? Now there's dead money to your cap.
Yep.
So you're going to have to pay him again to a practice squad deal, which again is not a significant paycheck, but in season practice squad counts on your cap too. So now you're not looking to have Keenum having his guaranteed money, but now you're going to have a second contract. And now if you do cut him, let's say they really value him in the room. He may say, hey, yes, I want to be in Chicago. I want to be a part of Ben Johnson. I will come back. But then if you cut him, he's a free agent. Now let's say whoever comes and say, hey, Case Keenum, you know, we like what you've done there in Chicago. Your preseason game looked good. You can still play, obviously. Here's $2 million guaranteed to come be our backup. Are you going to turn that down? I mean, maybe he's in a place in his life where he'll say yes. But look, a handshake deal only takes you so far when someone comes and puts a guaranteed contract in front of you. So maybe they take a chance and risk him again. And then also the third quarterback rule comes into play, which you have to have 3 rostered to take advantage of that. You can't just have a guy in the practice squad, bring him up as your emergency guy. So I can see it either way. They're obviously content with Tyson as your number 2. Do they really want Case in the room? If they really, really want him in that room, you know, they're going to keep him on the roster. But I can see that go either way. And then if that happens, if they do cut him, bring him back in the practice squad, now you do open up a spot for a guy like Johnny Walker. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting the next couple of days, see how the Bears make these cuts.
I mean, you know, they guaranteed over $1 million. You just saw the Eagles to Keenum. You just saw the Eagles trade for a backup quarterback from the Vikings.
Backup quarterbacks suck around the league.
Right. But like, you know, Sam Howell, would you rather have Sam Howell or would you rather have Case Keenum? Right. I think I'd rather have Case Keenum. Like I like Case Keenum. Right. So, you know, to me, I think they want his wisdom and experience. I think they want him on the sideline, you know, to be in Caleb's ear. I think they value a lot of what he brings. And it balances out. Again, we had this conversation last year. Like, why aren't they bringing in an older quarterback that has seen some things and can be a veteran leader? I mean, this would register as a surprise for me. To me, it would register as a surprise if they tried to do this. I think he's got a spot, and I think it's the money, and I think it's what he brings intangibly, and he can still play.
Yeah,
like I think that's part of it too. But for me, I think they value the leadership part, the second quarterback coach, right? Like that's what a lot of times the backup quarterback can be. You know,
it's funny because a lot of times people say, well, just make him a coach then, right? So in a locker room, as you're playing, as a player, a player can talk to you differently than a coach can, right? There's different things you take from a person who's actually, you know, suiting up with you on the field. You know, you kind of play the mediator between the coach and you. But if you're a coach and a coach, it's a different relationship. So I think there's a different relationship when it's a teammate, whether it's or an assistant coach. I think that's part of why they want to keep him, you know, around in some capacity.
Chris really liked the interview with Bobby. Again, just another plug for that one. If you want to go back and listen to Bill and Bobby talk. You know, I invited Bobby on, you know, because I knew he'd written the books on Ben Johnson and I knew he was excited. And it was a great interview that we had with him. And of course, Bill was able to bring him back on and do some similar conversation, but like just that much more into the preseason. So he's got just a wealth of information, as Lester said, and it's really worth your time. Bobby stuff in general is just, it's good. Like he knows what he's talking about. He lays it out in a pretty clear way. He's got a lot of books. You can learn a lot about the X's and O's stuff. It's not my strong point. And so I can learn a lot from him as well. And so we could have a Bobby segment fairly regularly, and I think we would all benefit from it.
Yeah.
If he's willing. All right, what else we got? It's a lot of back and forth with Detroit.
A lot of back and forth. Just talk about O-line depth, best we've had in a while here. And yeah, I mean it's Ryan Bates is one of your swing guys. He's your backup center. It looks like a good professional, backup. Ozzie Trapillo now looks like he's going to be maybe backup right tackle as a rookie. I'm not sure if he's going to be your swing, but I'm sure in these next couple weeks in practice they may kind of have him cross train some more. So yeah, it's pretty decent depth here, which is something the Bears haven't had in a while. I know last year we were like, well, the Bears have made some moves here, but if there's an injury or if something happens, like Nate Davis, is Nate Davis, there's going to be a problem in the O-line because the depth is rough, and we kind of saw that. So this year, it looks like on paper at least that the Bears have some guys that kind of come in and fill in if there is a problem that happens.
Yep.
Left tackle still concerning though.
Right. Yeah, that's the you got your 4 starters sewn up. Looks like there's some interesting depth, some interesting competition. Again, when you have competition, you're kind of hoping that somebody emerges. It was kind of a unfortunate ending to the preseason to not have super high confidence that you had that figured out. You're hoping that one of those guys would step into that, but it's not a perfect roster. It's a good roster. There's a lot of talent. But there's most teams don't have a perfect roster. Now the team wearing red that you're looking at, Patrick Mahomes covers up a lot of flaws, but that's a pretty good roster. Like they were talking about guys that they were going to have to, their second, third team that, someone might claim a Chiefs player because they're pretty deep. Like they're probably second or third best roster overall in the league. I mean, I think the Eagles roster is amazing. But once you get past them, there's a reason more than just Mahomes why the Chiefs compete like they do. The
Chiefs signed a guy to play left tackle, huge money, right? He's their swing guy now. He can't even break the starting lineup because the rookie they drafted, Josh Simmons, he won that job at left tackle. So, that's what happens. You're good, you stay good, and you draft well. That's where, Bears fans hope this team can get to someday.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, let's get out of here. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend if you're with us right now. And if not, thanks for watching and sticking with us. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
See you guys. Thanks.